The third and final stage was Huiyuan, Daoan's greatest disciple. And the point that I think that Huiyuan alerts us to is the idea that the Buddhist Sangha, the Buddhist community, and Buddhism could have intellectual centrality in the Chinese landscape, but would also have political independence within the Chinese landscape. It is said that Huiyuan began his studies as a Confucian, believing that ritual would be a way to end the chaos of the times. He then turns to Taoist philosophy and then turns to Buddhism. And after he's turned to Buddhism, he seeks out Daoan and becomes his disciple. He builds a monastery at Mount Lu, high up in the mountains of Jiangxi, an extraordinarily beautiful natural landscape. You can get there by cable car today, by the way. And he has the idea that the mountain retreat should be where Buddhism is located. Until this point, we think that most Buddhist monasteries would have been in the cities, where, after all, the money was, where the patronage was, where people could give alms to Buddhist monks. Daoan moves it into the countryside. And he makes it an intellectual center. People begin to flock to Mount Lu. Poets, writers, painters, calligraphers, philosophers start to congregate there at this place in the mountains in a beautiful landscape and makes it into an intellectual center. At the same time, Huiyuan looks and says, the Sangha must be independent. He says, I am a stranger to the world. I will not go down the mountain. I will not participate in politics. And yet, the warlords around him want his participation. They want him at court. They want a famous person. And his solution is not to take sides. Over the objections of his disciples, he welcomes all sides. Within the context of Buddhism, all people can be saved. And there's no need for him as a monk to choose one side over the other. But the military want control over the clergy. They suspect that the clergy is intriguing. They don't like the fact that if you become a monk, you are not responsible for taxes, for military service, that you acquire all this bronze and this copper in your monasteries, things, after all, copper is used in coinage, it's pure wealth in that sense. Right? And at various points in history, pogroms are launched at the Buddhists. But Huiyuan sets out to explain why it is that Buddhism can and should remain independent. He writes a treatise called Monks Do Not Bow Down Before Kings. I'd like to pause now and ask you to start to read it and discuss that.